In this problem, we're trying to get this standard equation form of an ellipse and convert it to where we can just take out the center, right? So the first thing we want to do is actually align the terms so that either x or y is together. So here we have x and y, x and y. So our first step is to align them so that x's are with x's, y's with y's. And we should probably best start with the x's because if you recall, we have x comma y as a component, and that's essentially going to be our center, and the x is on the left. So let's start. We have 9x squared plus 18x plus 4y squared plus 8y minus 23 equals 0. So I literally just rewrote it so that the x's are first and then the y's come second, followed by then minus 23. And so the second step is essentially moving the 23 over to the other side. So real quick, that's not a dot, that's just something I accidentally left there. And now we're going to focus on the left-hand side. So the next part is really going to set us up for completing the square, and that's a huge component of what we need to do in this type of problem. So the first thing we want to do is focus in on your x's first, and we're going to do the same thing with the y's, okay? But let's do this with the x's, and what we want to do is GCF. So if you notice with 9 and 18, the biggest number we can factor out is 9. So 9 times what gives us 9x squared. We're missing the x squared. Plus 9 times what gives me 18. That's 2x. Now we want to do this plus space. This is where we are going to complete the square. And so that closes off there. And we're going to repeat the same process with the y. So plus 4 is the biggest number we can factor out, leaving us with y squared, plus 4 times 2 is 8y, plus this little gap here equals 23. Now I'm approaching the borderline here to the right, so I'm going to start moving to the left a little bit. So in any case, this is what we really want to do as this follow-up step. We want to complete the square. That's what this is all about. We need to complete the square in order to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and explain this verbally and then do this by writing it out. So to add the number here and add the number here, it's the same process. So it's literally b. Why is that b? Because this is a, b, c, right? So that's ax squared plus bx plus c. So we take our b divided by 2, and then we square it. So 2 divided by 2 squared is equal to 1. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So what we really add is 1 here, right? We're going to go ahead and, let's just go ahead and rewrite this. So this is quite a bit of work here. So 9x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay, we're going to come back to that 1 right there. Close that. Plus 4y squared plus 2y. Same thing. Divide by 2 square, right? So divide this by 2. That's 1. 1 squared is 1. So we're going to go ahead and plus 1, okay? Close it. Equals 23. And this is where it's going to get a little tricky. So let me go ahead and move this a little bit because otherwise you might get confused if you really don't know how to do this. So on the right-hand side, we need to do the same. So plus 1, that 1 comes from this one over here. So, but remember, we want to add 1 on this side, but we're not just adding 1. We always need to multiply it by this number up at the front. So it's literally 1 times 9. Now let me make this clear. This that we're doing on the right is not going to change the center. So if you end up screwing it up, chances are you'll get full credit. But obviously you do not want to mess it up if you don't have to. So here we have 1. And so we're going to go ahead and add 1 to the right-hand side. But that 1 is because of this one right here. But again, that needs to be multiplied by the 4 that was in the front. So that's what we have. And then we're done with that step. The next step is really what's going to set us up for completing the square. So this really is also that we can write it in this format, okay? That becomes b divided by 2 squared. So that we can write it in this format, that is the goal of why we do this, because when we write it like this, we can actually start taking the center. So the first thing we want to do is write the 9 that was in the front, and then parentheses squared. If you notice, this is what I'm writing in the middle. And then here is x. Now is it plus or minus b divided by 2, right? What is that? So we already did the work when we did this, but again, you just take your b, divide that by 2. That's positive 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this becomes plus 1 squared, and then plus 4, and then same thing, but now it's y, not x. And then squared equals, and again, this doesn't matter, but let's see if I can add that in my head. That's 13. So what is that? I don't know, 36, I think. So let's go ahead and complete this part. Again, same process. We take this number right here, plus 2 divided by 2. That's 1. So this ends up being plus 1. Now it's all done, right? It's all done here, because all you need to get is the center. So we go ahead and just center. And that's a coordinate. That's my x because it's right here. So that's the opposite, -1. And this is my y. And this is the value for it. And that's the opposite. So it's -1. And that's my center. And that's all you have to do. You do the same thing for this one, okay? Go ahead and rewrite it again and practice it, but that's all you're going to need to do on the exam, and you should be fine.